my name's Lorna, and I've been invited by Debbie Gregory to talk on the topic of vocation and sustainable support structures. Vocation is a concept central to Christianity, the religion that I grew up with, as I'm sure many of you did. It derives from the Latin vocatio, a call or summons, and until the 16th century in Western Europe primarily referred to a call by God. It is now used more broadly to refer to a strong feeling of suitability for a particular career or occupation. If you look at any Christian website, you will find a section on vocation. On the Church of England website, vocation means what you are called by God to be and do. For some it is a specific calling to ministry, for others it could mean serving God through faithful discipleship in everyday life. Everyone has a vocation, find yours. The Roman Catholic Church has a whole website dedicated to vocation, the National Office for Vocation, helping people hear God's call. They even have an app for a mobile phone named God Calls, which takes our concept of a God phone to a whole new level. I rejected Christianity when I was young, as a brownie going to church parade, disliking the patriarchal presence of the Christian God. I believed myself an atheist for a long while. I did not know there were alternatives, even though I could sense and occasionally see the spirit world. After discovering paganism at the age of 30, I experienced a call by a Brythonic God to serve him on a personal devotional level, and by sharing his stories and those of the spirits of the land within my communities. As I attempted to make sense of this, I was surprised by the lack of dialogue and guidance on vocation within paganism. Christianity, by contrast, has tried and tested support structures for people called to a vocation. This often involves working through processes of questioning, discernment, prayer, meditation and retreat. Take the spiritual exercises of Ignatius. I haven't come across anything like this in the pagan tradition. In Christianity, there are pathways by which a person can live their religious vocation by becoming clergy or a monk or nun. As paganism is a new developing religion and is unfunded, we just don't have these structures. For these reasons, I found living my vocation difficult and found myself looking with envy at other religions. The toughest thing has been balancing serving my deity and making a living. As I've reached out into the pagan communities, I've realised I'm not alone and others are struggling with these problems. To bring this topic into the light and open dialogue on how we can work together to build these much needed structures, I posted the following questions in 4 groups on Facebook. What does vocation mean to you? What are the benefits and pitfalls? And how do you think people called to a pagan vocation can work better to support one another? I posted them in Pagan Federation, the British Druid Order, Arwenack Arwynedd, and Pagan and Polytheist Monastics. And these are the answers I received. What does vocation mean to you? Janet Munin. Vocation means the work that someone feels called to at a deep level. It's the work that's more than just a job. For those of us who feel have discovered that our spiritual path work is our calling, it takes on the more specific meaning of living centred on our spiritual work. Jules Farah. Vocation for me is an unavoidable, compelling and fulfilling drive to not only seek answers, but to dedicate one's life journey to communion with Creator Deity or that which is greater than oneself. To accept and enter into a spiritual vocation seems to demand discipline, focus, hard work, and less focus on the self with more focus on the other. Adam Sargent. I would see vocation as a calling. Some folk feel called to use their particular skills and abilities towards certain ends in life. I see this as vocational if being frustrated in doing so results in deep, negative, emotional responses. Erin Rose. Vocation is a curse as well as a blessing. Mine is tucked into the crannies of my life and is shaped by my paid work. I am here to tell the story of this wonderful, terrible, pivotal time we live in, and the way we are all bent around the requirements of making a living. It's the way the roots of trees flow around rocks in the soil or their branches by the winds. A lovely poetic response there. Caroline Wise. For me it means accepting that we have chosen this, not some supernatural force, and having chosen it we tread the path with integrity and not expect special treatment or status, and support genuine people we find in the community. Joe Fitzpatrick. I think it implies work, which certainly resonates with me. I do feel like this is hard work and more boots on the ground are needed. Alexa Joe. When I was a Christian, I followed the pietist and mystical approach. In Christian terms, vocation can be contemplative, practical or a mix. I've done a mix in the past. These days the active element is my writing. Many of my novels which feature gods from a range of pagan beliefs. Vivian Armstrong. It means that there are thin liminal lines all over my spiritual path and career that I am both blessed and challenged with. Part of both my spiritual and career path is to be constantly looking for and building up those lines where it's helpful and taking them down where they are not. In short, I feel like a constant map maker. Hilary Whirl. I found my vocation and true happy place as being a support to others. I actually like planning, marketing, supporting, developing spiritual programs. It allows me to be creative and still stay in a community I enjoy. I tend to be an empire builder, but it's always pushed from a spiritual standpoint. Basically, I think the gods and ancestors realise I will do the work. So the main themes here are that vocation is a calling to some form of spiritual service deeper than an everyday career. A service to what is greater, to the gods, the spirits, the other, to the land and to one's communities. A vocation may or may not bring somebody into conflict with making a living in everyday life, and for those for whom it does, it's incredibly painful. However, it is possible to marry the two, and those who have managed to find true happiness. Which leads on to the benefits and pitfalls. Alexa Joe says, the pros are that I feel in intimate contact with gods most days. I don't think I could live without that. The cons are many. There are so many other things I could be doing with my time. I spend too much time at the keyboard. Writing can interfere with other forms of devotion. I'll never make a living from what I do, and it's a lonely life. Hilary Whirl. Peopling is actually hard. I get very vision focused and need to get the free rein for it, so it's a contradiction in what I actually enjoy. The benefits outweigh the pitfalls. I feel blessed, especially when I get paid. Caroline Wise. I don't think there are particular benefits, except perhaps an interesting life experience. Pitfalls when ego takes over. When the person thinks that as a priestess-stroke teacher they are somehow spiritually superior to and more contacted than anyone else. Joe Fitzpatrick. I think it implies a sort of suffering, so you get little reward from this work, aside from the fact you just love it. I wouldn't necessarily need any other reward in order to feel like it's worth it. Janet Munin. Having a spiritual vocation connects me to my gods in a very deep way that most people will never experience. I love the passion and intensity of it. The pitfall is that it can be very painful and confusing to feel like my ordinary life isn't going the way it should be. Jules Farah. The benefits are finding a peace, love and balance within oneself which comes from dedicating oneself to a path which flows in line with one's soul, ancestors and beliefs. The pitfalls are lack of support, both financial and mentoring. Structure, discipline and focus can be difficult to maintain alone. Vivian Armstrong. Benefits. I get paid to do what I love. I don't have to try to find time for my spiritual practice as most of my work is also my work, capital W. Cons. I can't put either work or work down for any real amount of time. Things get blurry. It's hard to ever call it in at work or just have a good whine and moan about work stress. So we see here for many vocation is a struggle, but on the whole, even for those who don't make a living from it, the benefits outweigh the pitfalls, and if they didn't, then why would we do it? So finally moving on to what we can do to support each other better now. How do you think people called to a pagan vocation can work better to support each other? Vivian Armstrong. Support networks. Building one another up instead of down. Talking openly and honestly about money and business. Promoting good folks doing good works and not tapping the same few people constantly because they're popular or you think they will make you money or draw a crowd. Finally, pay your help. Pay folks with cash, money and exposure. Hilary Whirl. Networks are always key. I think people can be more successful when they worry less about money coming only to them. Like, let it go and it'll grow. Adam Sargent. We need to move beyond the mindset that people should do spiritual work for no monetary return. But at the same time, we need to move beyond the transaction paradigm and move into a relationship paradigm. Alexa Joe. For me, support comes from spending time with friends talking about the gods and whites. Also from being part of the land and watching its seasons. I don't think there is generic support. Jules Farah. It would appear to require a structural framework which is adaptable to each different belief system and which outlines and offers the support required, how it can be delivered, and what the necessary steps are to create a long-term foundation for a person's vocation. Most of this would seem to be a council of elders kind of paper exercise regarding finances, mentoring, events, uniformity of standards, education, insurance, etc. Janet Munin. Having online forums is a good way to connect and support each other. I think we should consider creating regional associations which can meet at least quarterly face-to-face for fellowship, mutual support and sharing experiences. It might be helpful to find ways to share our monastic work with the wider community. Here she gives examples of prayer, ritual, spiritual direction, pastoral counselling, classes and retreat guidance, and suggests talking to our gods about it. Erin Rose says, I think that building communities where we can cut expenses is a great way to carve out more time to serve that which we are called to do. In this way we can support each other as well as gain the space and calm to do our work. Balancing our resources and our time is a challenge of this age. So we've got some really good positive responses there, some really good ideas, and the main thing that seems to come through is that building these support networks is the key, both online and physical. Also that spiritual work should be paid, and although interesting, Adam suggests moving from beyond the transaction paradigm to a relationship paradigm. Another ambition would be the creation of physical multi-tradition pagan monasteries that hosted prayers and rituals for the community, meditations, classes and retreats. Of course this does raise the question of finances. However, if other religions can raise funding, and this doesn't mean drawing on the general public who aren't interested, but perhaps taking that onus on ourselves, trying to gain interest from people who are interested in participating in those services, or from wider supporters in the community, this may be possible. If other religions can do it, why not us? I'd be interested to hear your opinions. Thank you.